two of today. I forgot that I double booked myself, but welcome to Burn the Wagon, another episode of Burn the Wagon. We're here to burn the wagon that is capitalism, patriarchy, and colonialism. My guest is going to be Danielle Frank, so I'm going to invite her real quick. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me for another live today. Second one today. We're going to be talking about some stuff going on in Hoopa, California, affecting salmon in that area and the waterways. So hopefully she'll be joining me here shortly. And for anybody that wants shirts, I am sold out of anything that I just had. I'm going to order more shirts. So hopefully by Monday I'll have shirts. And if you've already pre-ordered one, I got you down in my notes. Thank you guys for the support. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I got stickers also. Oh, okay, cool. Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you guys?
I'm good. Are we good on Wi-Fi this time?
Good, I finally got it installed.
Hell yeah. Last time we were working with that Res Infinity.
That's how it goes.
All right, let's just do a little prayer real quick, and then we'll get started on the questions. Okay, I want to send love to anybody that's suffering from domestic violence issues. I want to send love to anybody that's suffering from mental health issues. I want to send love to any of our ancestors or loved ones that have passed on to the spirit realm. I want to send love to anybody, yourselves, for being here today. And I want to send love to our precious Mother Earth. Right now I am on Ohlone, Amamutsan territory, once called the Red Abalone. So I just want to point that out, and thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. And Danielle Frank, I really appreciate you being here. We'll just get started with a little intro about yourself, where you're from, and then we'll just go from there.
Okay, thank you. Waituch Danielle Holie, Hosa Hona Holie, Madaldi Nahue, Tsewanaldi Nahue, Hontananti Nahue. Hello, my name is Danielle Frank. I'm from the villages of Medelding, Tsewanalding, and Hontananting on the Hoopa and Yurok reservations, which are located in Northern California, about 2 hours from the Oregon border. And I am a Hoopa tribal member, and I am also Miss Natenahue for the Hoopa tribe. It's a title that one of our young women in our tribe who has yet to start a family kind of hold. We change out each year, and we use that platform to kind of help do things for our youth and get an understanding of how our tribal council works. And I'm also the youth coordinator for Save California Salmon, a nonprofit in Northern California area that focuses on kind of river-dependent indigenous communities and how we can affect public policy in order to keep our water rights going, and a lot of different things, but we work surrounding water conservation the most. And I'm a Hoopa tribal member.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. We'll start off with talking about the salmon up there, because I feel like that's a super important issue to start off with, and the rivers, because yeah, I'll let you go, because I'll let you get started with that, because what's the biggest issue affecting that area right now?
Yeah, it's really a lot of things coming into play at the same time, but it is our water issues have been some of the biggest issues for about the past 2 decades, just because the increased drought years and then the diversions from our rivers. And but all of the tribes on the Klamath and Trinity rivers in Northern California, where I grew up, it's Hoopa, Yurok, and Canoe territory, and those rivers are full of river-dependent communities. So all of our communities rely on these rivers for our food sovereignty, including salmon and other things, but also recreation use. We don't really have any other facilities on our low-income reservations for kids to hang out at. And then our most important resource for the rivers, our most important resource for our cultural ceremonies. So we have ceremonies that are performed in canoes on top of the river, and then we get a lot of our regalia and ceremonial tools from the river. So the river for us is more than just, a river to play around in. It's a cultural lifeline. And over the past few decades, we've had issues regarding our water rights since colonization, of course. But in 2002, we had a major fish kill, which resulted in over half of our adult salmon dying just because of the low water temperatures. I mean, the high water temperatures and the low water levels, resulting in blue-green algae sucking the oxygen out of the water, causing our salmon to suffocate, which unfortunately means a little bit more than just a food source for us. We're taught that our traditional and ecological perspective teaches us that these salmon are what not only what we need, but what the river needs. You know, these salmon are the ones that clean the bottom of the riverbeds, planting their nest, and so our entire ecosystem fails without them. And we've always known that. That's something that's in our stories. That's something that is not new to Native people. But unfortunately, greedy corporations don't really agree with us. They don't have the knowledge, and they don't bother to get the knowledge to kind of see from our perspective. So we've been fighting water diversions. Right now, the percentage is about 7 to 3 of how much 30% we keep in our rivers. 70% gets diverted to pretty much big ag is where it really goes. A little bit does trickle down to the Southern California cities, but most of it is sold to private farmers just so that they can, it's not state money. It goes straight into the pockets of private farmers. So they're selling our most valuable cultural resource to these private farmers in order to make money, unfortunately. And so that's kind of been one of our biggest struggles, is trying to fight with these greedy corporations to help them understand from an indigenous perspective what they're actually doing. It's not that they can do this ocean restoration project over here because they're messing up this river, but that doesn't equal out. Our people have fought since time immemorial. We're one of the only tribes that are still on our Aboriginal land. We still have our village sites. Our reservations haven't been urbanized. So we're really wealthy in culture, and it's just, the modern day way of trying to take that from us. So the salmon this year, their biggest struggle was the forest fires. We had one of the biggest forest fires in California, the number one biggest on the above us, and then we had the second right below us. So within the 100 miles, there was the two biggest wildfires in California, and our reservation was sandwiched in the middle. So those forest fires actually caused, those were in like fire suppressed ecosystems. We're tribes who do a lot of cultural burning, so that's our job, to take care of those ecosystems. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that due to our fire burning rights being very limited. And those fires started in major, in lands that have already been logged pretty badly. So just the combination of the huge forest fires and the fire suppression and the logging caused a mudslide called the sediment pulse into the Klamath River, and it caused about, I think it was 8 to 12 hours of zero oxygen levels for 50 miles. So 50 miles of that river had zero oxygen in it for I think between 8 and 12 hours, both during 2 different nights. And so everything that was in that 50-mile radius died immediately. And unfortunately, the river didn't have a ton of water in it in order to wash it out quick. So it kind of lingered around, and now our fall run is coming up and getting sick as soon as they touch the waters. And so between the combination of the forest fires and the diversions, and then the hydroelectric dams that we have on the Klamath River that we're pretty much taking out right now. It's in a process. They should be out within the next 2 years or so, and that's actually going to be the biggest river restoration project in U.S. history. So it's really exciting that that's happening. We just kind of have to combat these new issues being thrown at us left and right.
Wow, it's amazing. Because I read somewhere that you've been a water protector since you were a very young age. So somebody brought you to a protest at like a really young age, and that was your uncle, correct?
My dad.
Oh, your dad. Yeah, correct. That's awesome. And man, like you said, Hoopa is out there, and that's amazing to hear that. I didn't know that you guys were on your original land. Because I think for us, we're I think we've been moved a little bit from our from our original village. And I know for us that we have to get fishing, like things like fishing licenses. Do you guys have to do the same thing?
Actually, no, we fought with the feds a few decades ago for our fishing rights to be granted to our entire tribe, and we won that fight. So on the reservation, Hoopa tribal members on the Hoopa reservation have hunting and fishing rights, and then for the Yurok reservation, all Yurok members have their hunting and fishing rights on the reservation allotted land.
And I could be wrong. They could have, like, the tribe could have worked something out lately, but the last time I checked, we did have to have a fishing license. In most places where we collect like abalone, things like abalone, like a lot of the good spots are like on federal land or somebody's property where we can't collect. So it's like it's good to hear somebody's at least like somebody's tribe is at least still on their recognized land and still have their village sites. You know, that's amazing to hear. Sorry. Okay. Another thing I wanted to ask about the canoe ceremony. Can we get a little bit into that? Because I read a little bit about it, but I wanted to ask you a couple questions. How does the ceremony start, and what is the ceremony like surrounding?
Oh, definitely. So that ceremony I was referring to was part of a bigger ceremony called Deerskin Dance. So the Deerskin Dance is a world renewal ceremony. We dance in that ceremony. We participate in that ceremony in order to create balance in the world between, there's never not going to be bad here, but if we can create as much good, at least it balances each other out. And so that's it's something that you work really hard to, like, during the 10 days that it's happening, you work hard to envision how you want your life to be for the next 2 years and kind of live like that. So you model, your best behavior, and you really try and feel what you would want for the next 2 years. And so it's a 10-day ceremony that's the purpose. And then it's done near the river bar. And for the last day is the boat dance, which is one of the last days is the boat dance, which is what I was referring to. So our people use redwood canoes in their transportation, and one of our villages is called the Place of Canoes. Canoes have always been a big resource for our people, and so in the boat dance there will be regalia dancers inside of the canoes, dancing, standing and singing and dressed full out in regalia while the canoes go down the water, which is it's really one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And the bad thing about low river levels and boat dance is the canoes, they need enough water to get through. And so if there's a super skinny, super shallow river, there's not enough room for all the boats to go together. And then if they hit the bottom, there's a chance that our dancers fall out in their regalia that's generations old. And we've actually had to fight with the state many times in order to release. There's now a policy in place where they have to release water for our cultural ceremonies, such as the boat dance, from the reservoir where they keep the dam at, which is definitely, we work really hard for that. And so that's another positive that we've really needed and we've got granted. So, it's a struggle, but we definitely do our best to keep our river in at least the mediocre condition it is now.
And that's the corporations that are you were talking about that are holding these dams up or putting these dams in, correct?
Yeah, and one of the big corporations for the Klamath River, the one that runs through Yurok territory, they're funded partly by Warren Buffett. So it's one of like that we've actually had to protest him several times in order to create change in the Undown the Klamath campaign. There have been people from the tribe who drove to his house, showed up at funders meetings, been, definitely an unignorable, indigenous resistance in order to make those changes. So it is partly the Pacific Corp company funded by Warren Buffett and others, and then we have we have a relationship with the State Water Resources Control Board. So they're beginning to understand and give us a platform in order to help share our perspective and have meaningful consultations with tribes regarding water rights. And it's definitely not a perfect situation, but we were recently working on like a racial equity resolution, and we're getting further with them than we were in the past, so that's exciting too. They control a lot of the diversions in our rivers, so it's kind of just, here and there, everything that's happening.
And what's the Instagram for the Save California Salmon? What's their Instagram account?
It's going to be California Rivers. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay. And recently I saw a post by them, like people were going to swimming holes and just seeing just salmon dying from ick, I believe it was.
Mm.
Is that so? That's part of being the low water levels and stuff as well, and
Yeah.
having not a lot of oxygen and being the temperatures being too high, correct?
Yeah, it's just a kind of a factor of they if the water's unhealthy, it's obviously going to reflect in the species inside the water. So when the water gets low and it gets warm, it creates a good environment for parasites and things to flourish. And it, is one of those things that flourish in dirty, unhealthy waters, and it spreads really quickly, from my understanding. So if one fish goes and hangs out by the bottom of this creek where it's cool, where all other 200 fishes are hanging out because it's cool, and most likely a lot of those fish are going to get ick and not be edible and then die off before they can actually spawn. So that's, it's hurting the generation right now, and then also hurting us generations down the line when those babies are supposed to be coming back up the river.
Absolutely. Is there any upcoming events that you guys are doing with that people can check out?
Oh, definitely. So right now we're kind of finishing up our summer tabling. We'll be in like the Humboldt area, kind of doing some little things, and then we'll be at Native American Day at the Capitol on the 23rd, in the morning, 10 to 2, I believe. We have a booth there, and then we're going to be kind of diving more into a campaign that we're calling Save the Delta. It regards the Delta down Sacramento area. And so it's called the Delta Sites Project, and they're trying to just do they're trying to build a reservoir and all these bad things down there that definitely the area cannot handle. It's something that they proposed as a project 5 years ago, and it got turned down, so they proposed it in a different way, and so we're still fighting it. And definitely we make a ton of slides at California Rivers on here, a ton of talking points, and then we definitely always share comment days. So when we can ask the public, like, hey, dial this number, say these 3 sentences, help us out, fight this. And those are really really big, they're actually really important events for us, just because of how, in the past we've done a few of these, and we started like a social media day for the Endowment Klamath and got like 35,000 people involved, and you can't really ignore 35,000 people. So sometimes those comments, even if it's just a 5-minute phone call, 250 5-minute phone calls takes up a lot of time. So it's just, those are the days that we really could use public help. Just there's always like a date and a time and a link. And then if you ever have any questions, all of our information's there. You can totally like text the Instagram and someone will answer.
That's awesome. And you guys are going to be in Sacramento on what day you said?
So the 23rd of this month, it's going to be Native American Day down at the Capitol. So we'll be down there along with a bunch of other like indigenous nonprofit and youth work networks, and just like indigenous people all together, kind of coming together, celebrating Native American Day, celebrating being Native. And so we'll have our table there with some information on what we're doing, some of the curriculums that we're developing and have developed in the past, and some of the current, we also have current campaign handouts where it'll kind of show what campaigns we're doing in what area of California and how to join. I definitely encourage you to come out and check us out if you're in the Sacramento area. And there's going to be a ton of other indigenous nonprofits there that are doing really amazing things.
Awesome. And you talked about some curriculum, and I read in the article that you were creating curriculum for high school, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about what you've created and like what you plan on creating for the future.
So I started as a curriculum review board member on the SES team when I was 16. I was in high school, and I was already super involved with organizing life. I founded my own club in high school, the HVHS Water Protectors Club, along with one of my mentors. And we did that when I was 15 as a sophomore. And then that's how I met the org I'm currently working with. And so they were kind of new and they were talking about this really cool project. And it was like indigenous based curriculum. So I was like, okay, like I have to know more about this. Come present for the club. So they came in and we talked and they invited me to be like a youth perspective on the curriculum review board team, which was really awesome. I got to give some commentary just describing, I think this could be a little more interactive. If I was in high school, that's how I would feel. I think that we can involve, more than 2 activities because this only really, both of these kind of touch the same people. You have to be a visual learner. I think that we can do something else for, our other learners and just really give like that feedback that as a high school student nowadays, I was able to have. And that was the Water Advocacy in Native Communities curriculum. It's a curriculum that touches really lightly on public policy. And so it's really one of the only things I've ever seen in the public education system that does touch on politics a bit, just enough to not be, persuading about everything and just educating. And then it also is from Indigenous perspective. So we were able to get people from the Hoopa, Yurok, Kuduk tribes to help us create lessons and modules and do video series with us, kind of sharing some of their knowledge. And then we took that rough draft we had of what all these people had given us and took it through the process of getting standardized in the state of California. And so when it came back, we were able to host teachers trainings and share it with educators across California. So now it's being taught in schools, in Humboldt, in Fresno, in Oakland. It's being taught in like a lot of public school systems across California now, which is really amazing. And so we kind of headed off that project and decided to do our traditional and ecological knowledge curriculum. So this one's a little bit more land-based and a little bit more traditionally based. And so it speaks on kind of just like an Indigenous perspective. And it comes from a little more of like a holistic approach than just a scientific. Although it does have, the scientific in there to back it up. And it's just so unique. Like this one is in for review right now with our board, or with our people on the curriculum review board team. This time they're going over it, going through overview and everything. And then we'll be following the same standard of this curriculum of implementing it across California.
Wow, it's amazing. And you started these groups at 16. It's crazy to me that, like, 'cause I'm 29, it's crazy to see like how involved the youth is right now. Because at 16, I don't think I would have been thinking about any of these things. Like, because like tradition wasn't really like that big back when I was coming up. So like right now, it's awesome to see the wave of like amazing people that are getting back into their traditions and trying to get back to what was lost. So it's really cool to see people like you doing amazing work and like have been doing amazing work your whole life. So it's crazy that yeah, it's just wild to me that the youth is so involved right now.
Yeah, it's been definitely as I started in doing pretty much just environmental justice work, and then that moved over to like native justice and environmental justice are the same thing, so you have to work in both of them. And then more recently, I took on the position a little over a year ago of youth coordinator at SES, and I've been helping to like build their youth program and working with all these like super awesome res kids and even like these urban native kids. And that's definitely where I'm stepping towards with like the education reform and being able to do like in-person summer events again and things. While I definitely am not stepping away from environmental justice, I'm also like focusing some of my organizing on Indigenous youth and like what they're needing right now. We can prevent a lot of misconception of themselves in their own mind by giving them these curriculums that they see themselves in so that they can see people of, and then we're also like working on a project called Indigenous Pathways to Success. So we're doing all these different forms of Indigenous success from like a UC, an Ivy League, a 4-year, a 2-year, going straight into the workforce, working as a firefighter, trade school, all these different versions of Indigenous success so that we can share that with kids too. There's so many ways for Indigenous people to be successful. Especially growing up on the res isn't always easy, and it's easy to take a rough path. It is. And so we want to be able to show them that like taking a successful path is, it might not be easy, but neither is taking a hard path. So we'll give you all the resources and give you the how to, and here's the people that give you advice, listen to their videos. If you want to go do what they're doing, they'll talk you through how to do it. And so between my perspective that I've grown into is kind of like we have to save our home. We have to, like, that's one of the most unique places left in the world. It's untouched, it's not urbanized, our tribal council's in charge, our people, that's home. But also our people are really struggling right now, especially our youth. So how can we find a happy medium where we're saving our home, but also making sure our home has people there for it? So we need to be sure that we're, as much attention and love as we're putting into like keeping our home healthy, we have to turn around and do that for our people, because our home's nothing without our people. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. It's about 50% youth work and then 50%, the 50% environmental justice. And with youth work, I did a lot of like summer camps and little fun things for kids during the summer, but also like the education reform work. And we'll be going into classes this semester, talking to the kids. And I think that that's kind of been one of the most rewarding things of my organizing career so far, is seeing like the res kids who are just like me kind of be open to like all this stuff.
Absolutely. And I think you doing work with the youth it'll go right back into the environmental work, because eventually you guys will get out there and go for hikes. You guys will eventually get out there and pick traditional foods, pick traditional medicine, grow traditional medicine. That's all it'll all go full circle around, I believe, you know what I mean? So you can be I'm sure if you're doing the environmental work, you're still inspiring some youth to be like, man, if she's doing it, I'm going to do that too. So either way, you're still inspiring to somebody. But like, I feel like doing the youth work is going to absolutely go 100% back right into the environmental work. And I think that's amazing. And like you're saying, being a res kid, to like be shown their stuff off the reservation is amazing. Because once I graduated high school, it's like, all right, like, just time to just like hang out in the res, get a job at the local restaurant, and then like that's it. That's my life. And I moved to Santa Cruz at 19, and then I was like, whoa, there's a world out here, and like I still haven't traveled, and like it's crazy because I'm still meeting people through this podcast, and like just hearing about their experience where they grew up is like wild to me. So like to give kids inspiration is amazing, and you're starting that, and it all starts with our youth. You know what I mean? So I thank you very much for like doing that work. That's amazing, because like I said, at 16 or at 18, 19, I wouldn't have been thinking about doing any of this. I was a selfish kid. So it's cool to see like you as being so young doing all this stuff. So yeah, I just want to kind of go into the Vogue article. I've talked about it a little bit, but yeah, let's talk about being a part of that project. Yeah, let's talk about being a part of that project and the people that you met through it.
Yeah, definitely. So that project was kind of, oh God, it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, honestly. It was almost a last minute collaboration with Future Coalition. They were looking for someone specifically an indigenous, hold on, sorry, excuse me. They were looking for someone specifically an indigenous youth, or like youth of color, to kind of highlight in their, climate activists, their BIPOC activists project they were calling Chakala. And so they reached out to me through one of my board members and asked if I'd be willing to be a participant in the shoot. And so we talked for a few hours, and they eventually ended up coming up straight to my reservation and doing the pictures and everything there, which was really awesome. I've never really had someone go that extra mile for me, and it was really cool. Just give me 1 second. My camera's being really laggy.
thank you everyone for joining us. I really appreciate it. I'll just take it 1 second. I'm gonna light some more sage for you guys.
All right. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good.
But as I was saying, yeah, the Takala crew came up and we did that photo shoot. We did an article and we started working on a documentary series, which it will be coming out soon. So stay tuned for that. And the experience itself was definitely something new for me. There was like 10 people and 3 cameras, and but in order to, you know, create awareness around my movement, that's something that kind of comes with it, is explaining to people what I'm actually doing. So I feel like I definitely benefited from that project.
That's I get what you're saying, because like it's just me right here right now doing this podcast, but like I'm still like really nervous. Like I can't imagine like having 10 people around you, like just like taking pictures, asking you questions. Like that's a really big project to be a part of, you know what I mean? And like you said, the situation, what you're trying to promote and what you're trying to talk about is much bigger than the fears that are inside you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like just keep like it's scary. It's gonna, because you're gonna keep doing these things. You're gonna keep being in these rooms. You're gonna keep being in these positions. So I think you got to keep pushing you through, because the ancestors, they want you to be there. They want you to kick in those doors that they don't want us in, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So it's amazing that you were a part of that project.
Yeah, I think one of the most important parts of that project for me was being able to include my mentors in there.
I saw that.
Yeah, they really ran with, you know, they told me they wanted to tell my story. And specifically, like Marcus Correa, he was kind of the head of the project. And he was a stylist, so he brought all the fancy clothes for me to try on that cost more than my family makes in a month. And he was really like so welcoming about the project. And then there was the photographer Carlos Jaramillo, and he worked on an old camera that kind of took a long time to shoot, but he did it in like, I don't know, he just made me feel so comfortable in front of that camera, that, or all those cameras and the lights, and the whole team really, I definitely look at them as really close friends now. We worked kind of those 5 days from, I think our longest day was like 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. almost. That was kind of one of our, it was a week thing, so we wanted to get in as much in as possible. I was on spring break. They were staying on my reservation for the week. And so we like just really connected. And I was really open with them. They wanted to tell my story. So I was like, okay, well, let me tell it to you. And it was a long one. And so they, the writer Jasmine Garcia for the documentary, she was a directress, and she kind of wrote a script, and it was things that I had told her the day before, like literally things straight word for word out of my mouth that she just put together and sounded, you know, perfect. You know, so I couldn't sum it up that well. And so the documentary ended up being about 10 minutes, and I'm really excited for it to come out. There's a teaser in the article. I think the teaser is about a minute long, and we're just finishing up the end piece of the documentary, but it's going to be really amazing. And I think that, you know, they came, and my mentors are a huge part of who I am. They're kind of, you know, the ones who taught me what I'm doing, like how to be involved in these things, but also like why I'm doing it. And so they invited all of them to come out and take pictures with us and be part of the movement. And we interviewed my great grandma for 2 hours, and they brought my family gifts. And it was really just like a huge communal moment between like my people and the whole team. So I definitely, that's what I was most nervous about, was being able to like share a perspective with them. But with, you know, some of them were indigenous and some of them were not, but most of them were, and like all of them had the most amazing perspective and open mind. It was really amazing.
That's awesome, and it's cool to hear that they had people that were indigenous like on their crew too. And they stayed out in Hoopa too. They were out at 2 in the morning. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was kind of the funnest part was just we went scouting, and so they asked if like any of them were a hard hike, and I was like, oh no, we're going to, you know, where I used to do bear grass at. It's not, it's a little creek, like quarter-mile walk, we're all good. But it had stormed really bad last year, so I hadn't been on that trail since it had stormed. And I had like sparkly slippers on, like I was just ready to hang out for a day. And like we were going down this trail, and boom, a tree had fallen down. So I was like, oh, it's fine, we'll just go over it. Like everything's okay. You guys can hand me the camera. And then we got over the tree, and then they were like, okay, you know, this is cool. And then we had to go down this super steep part that I kind of forgot about. And then we had to like crawl through these bushes and over this rock because the whole trail had been so messed up from the storm. And it was, the guy was like, why are you, like, how are you wearing sparkly slippers? And I'm about to break my leg in a hiking boot. And I was like, I didn't think it was a bad hike, you know, I'm sorry. But they definitely experienced the res life for a week, and it was fun.
You gotta tell them because I'm all rezzed out. That's why.
And that's literally, I took off my shoes on the way up. I was like, this is literally like, you know, like I'm a res kid. This is like dance. This is what I do.
You're out there scouting for Bigfoot. Nah, I just say. I actually have family that's up in Hoopa, and actually somebody just ordered for a shirt that's up in Hoopa.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, my mom was born up there. So yeah, she goes up there every once in a while. It's remote as hell. And one thing I wanted to ask about too is mental health in the youth. Is that a big thing that obviously I read it in the article, I believe. Is that a big thing that you guys are promoting as well?
Definitely. I think that it's kind of one of the biggest issues in our communities right now, unfortunately. You know, it's always been that Indigenous youth take their life far more often than any other youth. And that's only getting worse with the problems reservations face these days, you know, along with not only is it like healing from this intergenerational trauma that happened like not so long ago, you know, we were the last people on our own land to be able to vote. What was that, like 50 years ago? Literally, it was in the 70s. And so we're still healing from like just our grandparents' trauma. Like that was our grandparents. That was not a long time ago. And so dealing with that, and also dealing with like these modern day issues of living in low income communities, living an hour and a half from the most affordable grocery store, having almost no resources available, low employment rates because where are you going to get a job? There's just so many modern day issues that like come with also trying to deal with the trauma that, you know, your family and people have been facing since time immemorial. And so now you're expected to deal with that, but also, you know, deal with living in a low income community, living in a community with housing issues, living in a community facing substance abuse issues much higher than any other rate, facing domestic violence issues at a much higher rate, facing missing people at a much higher rate. It's just really, you know, it's really, I don't understand. There's no way that anybody goes through those things unaffected. And, you know, I live the res kid life, so that's kind of how, like, that's what is motivating me to move more towards the youth. I know exactly what it feels like to be a kid going through these issues, trying to deal in a modern day world that. And so there's definitely been a big push recently for like mental health awareness in our communities. And I definitely jumped on that bandwagon, and I'm doing everything I can in my power to help with that. I definitely think there can be a little bit of a stigma in Native communities, just like, you know, like we all go through things, we're supposed to get through them, you know, we're strong, we're resilient, and look what we've been through, like we can get through anything. But like we shouldn't have to keep going through things. Like that's surviving, that's not living.
Yeah.
And so just stressing to the youth that like get help. Like it's really, you know, that's what, like I did that, you know, that's the only reason I'm able to be as successful as I am, because I was able to process through a lot of my childhood traumas. And then, you know, that's a reason a lot of our people go down these really harsh, you know, substance abuse filled paths, because what else are they going to do? Like what else is going to make them not feel that pain? And there's that stigma around like drug addicts too, you know, they make their choices, they do this, they do that, but it's like, okay, like imagine you've been living your entire life with pains, and then you find something on accident that makes you feel better, and then you get sick, it's an addiction, and then you get an addiction, and then you're sick. Like you know, that's something I'm pushing for more now too is kind of substance abuse issues, just because that has affected my life really in really personal ways regarding the people that I love. And so that's something that we're going to be addressing over this next year. As my title as Miss Natinakwe with the Hoopa Tribe, that's kind of going to be the big issue that I'm trying to tackle and trying to find what resources we can provide for our communities is revolving like substance abuse and recovery treatments, friendship housings, like how we can really support our community in trying to heal themselves. And so that's kind of something I'll be learning more about too. I've always known it was an issue, but now, you know, and at this point in my career, I realize like these issues, like someone's got to solve them, someone's got to start those conversations. Everybody thinks these things, but nobody really has those conversations as much as they should. So that's kind of what I'll be doing as Miss Natinakwe this year, is starting those conversations of what does it look like to really support our people trying to get help.
Absolutely, I agree. Because I'm 2 years sober, and definitely I talk about some of these things living on the reservation and growing up, and it's not a normal childhood. It's not like it's not normal. It's just not what people are supposed to see, and it's fueled a lot of trauma in my life. And like I'm back into therapy. It's the first time I've ever done therapy. Actually, I started before COVID, but like it stopped being in person, so I stopped going. But and that's something I'm trying to encourage as well, because people like us are the people that are going to stop that generational trauma from continuing, because we like you said, we have to talk about it, we have to get it out, because we can't we can't continue to just to hold it in and continue like drink and this is what we are, we drink and we hold it in. Like, no, we can't continue that. That's continuing our generational trauma. That's continuing our what they want us to. That they gave us this alcohol to continue this, to do these things. And by they, I mean the United States government.
With those
so like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, but seeing like I continue to say, seeing people like you as young stopping this generational trauma is amazing. So like bringing up substance abuse is a huge stigma, because like people don't want to talk about it. I'm a drug addict. I'm technically a drug addict. I'm an alcoholic. So I think once people are ready to admit that, I think more people will come forward, you know, because people are afraid to say those things in our communities right now, because having a mental issue is being mentally weak in our communities.
And it's also so normalized, like, because of how bad these issues have gotten on reservations. You know, like on my reservation right now, it's the opioid overdose. Like, it's the fentanyl. Like, it's the, 16-year-old kids overdosing and dying on fentanyl. Like, that's what it is. So if you're drunk every night, if you black out 6 nights a week, at least you're not doing fentanyl. Like, it's just so normalized in our communities. Nobody lives like that. Like, that's not like seeing those things happen, like seeing your friends die, not having enough food, not having a safe space. Like, those are war tactics. That's, those are the things that traumatize adults. Like, imagine being a toddler running around, in a diaper experiencing those things. And that's why, that's to my belief, that's why our communities have gotten the way they've gotten, Unfortunately, like, it's just been so normalized for people to be hurt so bad that they find anything to make them feel a little bit better. And then even the people who try really hard and, get away from that substance abuse, like you can't blame them, when you understand what it's like to hurt, you understand what it's like to hurt. And so if you find, they found something that made them not hurt, and then they got sick with an addiction and now they can't stop. Like, I just want people, I think it's important to have a little bit more empathy. Like, all of us in the Native community, unfortunately, have loved somebody who's experienced some kind of substance problem. And so, like, collectively, we know that these are our issues in our communities, and it's going to be really hard, that not many people agree with, like, no alcohol on the reservation or anything like that. Like, that's absurd. You can't actually do that. And so just trying to, like, spread awareness about what these things do to people, and, like, when you're ready to get help, here's these million things, and it's really cool. Like, indigenous founded rehab that has cultural teachers and it has therapists and it has jobs at the rehab so you can leave with some money. And like that's kind of one of my life goals is building that facility in my home, of being able to like provide a safe space where my people, like home means a lot to me, and it means a lot to everybody I know. It's a piece of who we are. And so being able to provide that safe space at home for them is something that I am really passionate about, and I really hope that I can move forward in the future. It's something I've thought about a lot. I lost one of my best friends at 17 to a drug overdose. And then I lost my father to to other people having drug addictions and causing these things. And it just became really personal for me. And I realized, someone's got to do something about this. So I will be, the plan for hopefully sometime within the next 5 years or so is getting that proposal together and building a facility at home where my people who are struggling can go to still feel at home while they're getting better and know that like our community still wants them there. We don't want to ship them away for 2 years to go deal with their problems. Like let us, we want to help them do that. And so it maybe if that narrative shifts a little bit, we'll be able to be more supportive for our people, and then more people will want help. We can have these houses where they go from straight from rehab to a sober living facility of a sort with places where they can not be in rehab but also still have available to all the resources, and they can we can help them provide jobs and really get a second start on life, because unfortunately when you mess up really big, sometimes it can feel like you don't have another chance. So when you help provide the other chance, there's definitely, that's like the most rehabilitating, I believe, is like actually helping them get back into the real world and understand, like, of course there's going to be pains and problems, but you have all these resources to not go back to those other ways again. There are other things we can do to get you through those pains and problems.
Absolutely, because drug addiction is another. It's just a mental health issue. It sucks that there's such a stigma on it, and having people be able in our communities, people really just don't want to come forward and admit these things. And like you said, we really, I think it's amazing to create safe spaces for these people to come and being able to admit these things. And I really thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate everything that you came and taught everybody. And I appreciate the work that you're doing, and I can't wait to see the work that you're continuing to do. Definitely would want to interview in person if that ever occurs, because that's the eventual goal with all of this, is to eliminate the over the internet. But I appreciate it, and I really, I can't say enough about the work that you're doing and continue to do. I really appreciate you joining me today.
Yeah, of course. I really appreciate, I'm definitely always down to support another Indigenous person, trying to, the media is a huge part of these movements, helping create awareness about what's happening and who's doing it and the resources we have to help. That's definitely the biggest part. I mean, if you have two people watching something and they go tell two of their friends, they go tell two of their friends, that's kind of the biggest power we have within the Indigenous community is community itself. And so, I'm always down to support an Indigenous person. Love to do an interview in person. That would be amazing.
Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And Yahui, thank you to everybody that joined today, and thank you to you as well.
Good deal. Thank you. All right. Have a good one, guys.
See ya. All right, thank you guys so much for joining the live. I appreciate it. I do have more shirts coming in. If anybody wants to order more shirts, go ahead and tap in with me. I do have my Venmo in the bio. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for following. Thank you for subscribing on YouTube. All of it. I really appreciate it. Yahui. Thank you. Yahui Yake Apede. Thank you, Creator. Peace and love.